Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Member Spotlight with the Holistic Chamber of Commerce. My name is Ashlyn Harding. I am in charge of member services for the HCC, and I am joined here today by one of our lovely Holistic Chamber of Commerce members. This is Jay Newman. He has decades of training and experience in shamanic, Taoist, NLP, and related practices. He's the creator of Evolved Influence, Tada Personal Cultivation, and Letting Go to Better Flow. He is an expert in holistic approaches to health, personal growth, and mindfulness. So, Jay, I am so excited to be here with you today. So, would you like to just introduce yourself and give any more background before we jump in?
Sure. Thank you, Ashlyn. This is my first foray into doing a training program. I've done a lot of teaching over the years of Qigong, shamanic work. Took over a group took over a group for men for success and intimacy and relationships and health and so forth, started by a Stanford professor, and was told that I was the best teacher they ever saw. I'm kind of extremely qualified to be training, but I've never done formal training before. And I'm not going to be charging money for the people that respond to this. This is an exploratory venture for me where I'm just going to encourage people to donate whatever they can to a nonprofit that I run that distributes an ionic silver that my company that I run makes, which is far, far beyond any colloidal silver. We can mention that maybe briefly before we're done. But truthfully, I've just been pushed by people that I'm surrounded by to be teaching. And I don't know how long I'll stay on this kind of a venue because my larger purpose is influencing the use of wealth and investing at a large scale, at the big money scale for humanity and the planet, because I consider that to be the most important arena where we can bring about change in the world. And I seem to be especially gifted for influencing in that arena. So I'm starting a support group for heirs to fortunes. And this right here is just my foray into let's put my toes in the water here and do this. Okay.
Yeah.
So, the funny thing about teaching, which is already a loaded word, I'm really into language and trying to be specific and not just gloss over, what does the word God mean? What does the word love mean? All these words, right? I had a conversation with a Taoist teacher of mine recently about healing. Oh, have people with nerve damage or trauma. So this is healing. I sometimes, now this is all going to be related. Okay. It's going to come together. I sometimes, when I'm doing the practices that I do, I'll get shudders through my body, like, whoa, or my body going to a posture. And I, mentioned, well, that's old trauma being released. I said, excuse me, careful. You talk about healing the people in your clinic with, nerve condition. There's another side to that. Healing itself is a loaded word. It implies focus on the problem. When the other richer, riper component of that process is the natural life force, the sprout coming through the dirt up through into the sun and the air, pulling the water and the nutrients in this magic process of life emerging. That's what's really happening. So if I have these allowing these energy spurts, for example, this is a consequence of two things at the two ends of where we're in the middle, where I'm in the middle here. On the one hand, releasing, letting go of contractions, energetic configurations of stuckness in the system. And on the other hand, intending and allowing through relaxing and opening the natural life force to come through. And so teaching becomes a matter of what are we really talking about here? Things you already know. Okay, there's a lot to be said for emphasizing things we've already learned that we could use more emphasis on, but then there's How do you convey we're going to bring about change that you're not already familiar with, but I'm going to tell you now in explaining the training I'm going to do what it's going to be? Well, we don't know. Just like the emerging of growth on a career path or a health journey or a happiness journey or relationship journey cannot be predicted. It's a matter of, that's why I talk about letting go to better flow.
Mhm.
And it's a combination of a mental process, intellectual, of being in awe of life, of being acknowledging the fact that this thinking, rational, counting mechanism is really good for important in life. Ego is important in life. Otherwise, why would you be motivated to get up and get dressed and go to work in the morning and do anything, right? Um, and yet, it's so limited in understanding what's happening. How does food get digested? How do we explain the male female attraction? How do we explain the imperative of nurturing those that we love? How do we explain how the trees grow? And so, being in awe of life like that, to me, is an important component to start to be able to let go and relax and understand that we're in this life flow. Whatever it is, it's okay. And it's learning to grab and let go. It's learning to balance between the ego of it's me, but the selfless nurturing of love for those that we love and honoring of life. It's the difference between grabbing and letting go. It's knowing that we're going to die, knowing that we're going to be fertilizer and worm food, and not freaking out over that,
Yeah.
but also not being so in the head of thinking, well, I'm going to live forever and it's all just numbers and it's time that can be wasted because I'm going to be forever. Having that balance in the interplay of this. And so, even from the physical, pragmatic teachings that I like to teach, I teach a very profound, powerful, energetic breathing and moving of energy form of Qigong called the art of longevity, where, I mean, teachers can move this hand. You got two hands. They can move this hand like this, and you feel a powerful electromagnetic field going through the other hand. Really, but or all the internal organs being exercised and the energy coming through and all that. And then the other, that's called fire method. Then the water method of purely releasing, getting used to the fact that we are always in this interplay of, are we in tension of strength and force, and or are we able to, like, imagine a tight fist always being clenched and you forgot that you were doing it, but then you learn, oh, let me pay attention to what it's like to release that. And when we can do that with our whole system, it opens up the natural flows of what they can call chi, life force, nerve flow, and intuition, and our higher being able to come through more naturally. And then I teach very pragmatic steps, a 4-step process that we can only do 3 of here right now. Number 1, I like to get into breathing. And there's different forms of breathing, but the simplest one is slower, deeper into the lower belly, softer, slower. And we get into, even with a little timing click clock sound thing, it can get into a 30-second cycle of a breath, and the amount of relaxing, releasing, being present that entails. And then from this position, relaxed, what do you want? Because it's knowing yourself and knowing your calling is an ongoing emerging of unfolding mystery, not staying stuck in where you were in that fixation. So from a position of relaxation, what do you want? And then the third step is, what is it like to have that now? Let's bring it about by what are you seeing on your inner visual screen? What are you hearing? What are you feeling physiologically? And then we get into the energy of what does it feel like? What is your body posture? What is the movement? What's really happening? Immerse in the experience of it exists now. And then the fourth step that I like to bring about when it's a group is
Mhm.
one by one, the person is on the gold seat, and the other group members one by one acknowledge and give feedback of the peer support of this exists now. I see that. Wow, that's amazing. And then I teach further dimensions of this, which we're familiar with, but cannot be overstated, which is using the people in your life to your benefit. And it's just how it is. Our own expectations of our capabilities, our actions, behaviors are so influenced by the feedback loop from others. So if they're insistent on keeping you the old way, it's best to keep them at a distance or gone. And the ones that support and hold the vision of your highest being, of the superhero in you, those are the ones to surround yourself with. So this is some of the things that I do here, and it's remarkable how they can go together and really help foster growth and change for the
Yeah,
better.
absolutely, absolutely. That all sounds really incredible, and um, it's great to hear that you're, venturing into this, sort of new world for you of coaching. And so I'm curious, who are the kinds of people that you think would be good candidates to be your students? Who are the kind of people you would like to work with and to help grow?
That's a remarkably good question. I was thinking about this. They teach you should have a niche of a certain kind of target audience, right?
Yeah.
And then I realized that Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi are doing these massive things on YouTube to teach people how to coach to the niche, and yet they're marketing that concept, that product, to the masses.
Yeah.
Um, I have to confess that my target is the very wealthy and the heirs
Mhm.
to fortunes who can put real money into promoting the good causes that I'm trying to promote. And yet, it's at the same time those who I can influence to be more conscious about using their wealth for humanity by waking people up to life more. And so that's one side of it. But then here I am. And how do you limit yourself to that? So my target audience now is anybody who's really curious and suspicious and just knows that there's more that they can achieve, whether it's just in reducing stress and anxiety, whether it's in feeling happier and more energized and healthier, whether it's having even better connection with their relationships, whether it's having more youthfulness longer, whether it's being able to be more confident and creative in doing the career work that you're doing, especially those that want to combine their own growth with loving others that are close to them and finding ways to contribute to the well-being of individuals and humanity and the planet while growing. Um, I'm here to help to the extent that my time can allow it, and we can figure out how to
Mhm.
coordinate.
Absolutely. Well, that is awesome. And I remember hearing earlier you said how, you're not charging for your teaching in a typical sense, but you are interested in donations towards your nonprofit. Was I correct in how I heard that
That's
and how I
correct. I again, I run a for-profit that makes an ionic silver complex that's light years beyond
Oh,
anything in the colloidal silver field. If I can give the website,
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
silver100.com, and there's a 30-minute educational video there that completely removes all the nonsense and misinformation and confusion in the field. This company, I used to have the same attorney and accountant as Stephen Jobs of Apple Computer 30 years
Mm,
ago, and I was only in the tech field to try and get wealthy to teach how much is known about holistic health and healing that is, secondary in the mainstream. Because I don't see ads on TV on the virtues of fasting or walking or predominantly organic plant-based diet or meditation or breathing. I don't know why I don't see those ads. I see ads for patentable, super profitable, poisonous drugs. The What I call our barbaric level of socioeconomic cultural evolution still has us to where things that people can monopolize and profit on get the focus when there's so much known about holistic health and healing. So I was in that tech field only to get wealthy to teach about holistic health, and Steve Jobs and I were buddies, and I left that in order to just get into the holistic health. And this ionic silver took 10 years and $1 million to develop. Investors have been showing up saying hundreds of millions potential, but they want to invest because of the money, and I won't talk to them. I think they are the problem.
mhm,
So make a great living, but when you're already worth a $500 million, if you just care about the next billion, you are the single biggest problem on the planet. So much we can do when that mentality changes and we use that level of wealth for good. Excuse me. So, hang on. So, I formed a nonprofit to raise donations from
mhm,
philanthropists to spread the silver rather than just get in bed with shark investors. Customers have been investing in the for profit because they see it saving lives. I know what great relationships are. And I'm now on the path of bringing in a few very wealthy people who care the good we can do. But my focus is more on donations to the nonprofit, which is A, distributing the ionic silver charitably, and B, has a division in development called the Dolphin Ring, which is for showcasing and promoting projects where the criteria is contributing to the well-being and healthy evolution of individuals, humanity, and the planet. So right now, until further notice, I don't know how long it'll be,
mhm.
offering my services as efficiently as it can be done on both ends on the basis of whatever you feel you've benefited and whatever you can afford, please make a donation to the nonprofit.
Wow, that's really remarkable and a really a really incredible thing that you're doing. So my hat's off to you. That's awesome. If anyone anyone happens across this live stream and is interested, either now or if they see it in the future, and is interested in reaching out to you to get more information about your coaching or other things we talked about, is there a good way for them to reach you or a website that they can go to get in contact with you or your team?
Yeah, right now the best way would be to email me at the Evolved Influence platform, which, by the way, there's a 39-minute video there called Our Genesis, which talks about my journey of using wealth for good and trying to advance that cause. Excuse me again, been working too many hours. JAY, my first name,
Mhm.
at evolvedinfluence.com.
Awesome. Great. And so I'm curious, is there anything that we haven't touched on yet about, what you're doing with coaching or anything else that you're doing that you want to talk about before we wrap things up?
Um, a lot of what I'm doing is pretty special in what it can offer.
Mhm.
Some of it people are familiar with terms and some of the practices. Um, the fire method qigong that I can teach is really unique. It's called the art of longevity, and what it does for bringing the body into a youthful state and bringing even sexual energy to men, and if I can say full body orgasm, holding the energy in a natural way, not some contrived let me think this through, but better than that by far, allowing the energy bodies of partners to wake up and share And then it's also literally called the art of longevity. I mean, at 72 years old, my teacher was a young Olympic athlete. And
Mhm.
so this is something that won't be found anywhere. So I like to think I'll find a way to start creating a course platform where it can be shared. Um, it takes time for all this to benefit, though. So hopefully we can fit in a little bit of time here and there in the near future, really benefit people and get near term results, as well as incur the kind of generative things that bring about results over time without somebody necessarily having the direct one-to-one correlation of, oh, this got that. And yet, wow, I wonder if working with Jay had anything to do with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, I'm really impressed by what you're doing, Jay, and it has been so wonderful and such a pleasure talking with you today about what you're doing. Uh, so it was great. Thank you so much for being here. Um, we
Ashlyn,
are
let's just clarify
yes,
the email address again to
yes.
reach me. Sorry.
I do see that someone asked. So it's Jay at evolvedinfluence.com.
Correct.
Correct. So that's JAY at sign evolved evolvedinfluence.com. So J at evolvedinfluence.com.
Right.
Sound good? All right. Well, thanks again, Jay. It's been a great conversation. I really enjoyed talking with you. And thank you to everyone who tuned in while we were streaming or anyone who finds this in the future. And feel free to reach out to Jay at that email if you want to get some more information about what he's doing and potentially become a student of his.
Thank you, Ashlyn.
Yeah. Thank you, Jay. It was so great talking with you. All right. Bye, everyone.